We're just going to give it a second to let the waiting room clear. Please make sure you're muted as you enter. All right, we're going to get started. Good afternoon. This is a hearing before the Boston Cannabis Board, the BCB. Today is June 11th, 2025. Today's hearing is being conducted pursuant to temporary amendments to the open meeting law. This is what allows us to meet virtually. This hearing is being recorded and will be posted to the City of Boston's website. Before I review some procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce.
Thank you, Jasmine. Good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I'm Chair of the Boston Cannabis Board. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Commissioner John Smith, Commissioner Lisa Holmes, Commissioner Jack Hensley, Commissioner Sonal Gandhi, and Commissioner Ramon Soto.
Thank you, Chairwoman Joyce. My name is Jasmine Nguyen, and I am the Boston Cannabis Board Manager. We are also joined by Luke Sandhouse, who is our Cannabis Licensing Specialist. I will begin by calling each item in the order they appear on the agenda. Today, we have one amendment to an already approved license and one new license application. The amendment application will have 5 minutes to present to the BCB, followed by questions and comments from the board members. We will then move to our new license application. The new license application will have 10 minutes to present to the BCB, followed by questions and comments from the board members. We will then take public testimony, beginning with elected officials or their representatives, followed by general public. If you wish to testify, please sign up via the link that we put in the chat. If you already signed up, you don't have to do it again. Additionally, you may use the chat function to request to testify as well. Please wait until the matter in which you would like to speak about is called. Do not use the chat to give any testimony. It will not be considered. Please state your full name, address, and affiliation, if any, when giving testimony, which will be limited to 2 minutes. Additional testimony may be submitted in writing to cannabisboard@boston.gov. The record will be kept open until Monday, June 16th at 5 p.m. The BCB does not give any more weight to spoken testimony than it does written testimony. After our transactional matters, we will move to our reconsideration item, and I'll explain more when we get there. So the first item we have is New Dia Fenway LLC. The license premise is 4862 Brookline Avenue in Fenway, Kenmore area. The license type is a marijuana retailer, and their request is to amend the license to allow for delivery of recreational cannabis through a third-party delivery. Who is present on behalf of New Dia?
Myself, Ross Bradshaw, and then we have Kyle Chambers, the Director of Operations.
You have 5 minutes to give a brief presentation to the board.
Yes, we did share a presentation. Would it be easier for me to share or for you?
Yeah.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Um, we have been operating for come July, it will be 2 years now in the Fenway community, specifically on Lansdowne Street. With our retail operations, what we're proposing is to add delivery or courier operations. So as many of you guys are familiar, it's a specific license that's granted to SE operations or social equity or Black or woman-owned enterprises. And we would like to partner with an organization by the name of Safe Light LLC. They would be handling all of the delivery of the actual product from Nudia, but Nudia essentially would be conducting all of the sales and transactions as we would any of our normal retail operations. So we were proposing delivery from 10 a.m. or the ability to deliver from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. In terms of how this would work logistically, so yeah, as you guys are familiar, the Fenway area is at times can be a complex area to navigate traffic-wise. However, I would say my team is over the last 2 years, we've become very experienced and familiar with the neighborhood. Just this past month alone, we had a number of issues that shut down the street that, quite honestly, we've had a great relationship with the folks in the Fenway community. And it's really just a team effort working with the businesses, working with the Red Sox, with any hiccups that might have traffic wise. And, for instance, this past month, we had a number of concerts that were canceled, which forced some of the streets to be shut down. And so going into this, we're very aware of those factors. And, it's one of those things that actually we're fortunate enough within our POS and with our operations that when we have to cease delivery, it will be inconvenient to some of the folks, but that's going to be what we'll have to do. Happy to dive into that more with any additional questions. And outside of that, the way our delivery operations would work, very similar, or if not exactly the same to a lot of the other delivery operators in the city of Boston. Every individual who orders will have specific IDs checks to ensure they're 21 years of age. Delivery agents will be required to wear body cameras, and there'll be no sales to any colleges, government funding housing. And I believe those are the only restrictions. And then, of course, all the vehicles will be unmarked and will be securely equipped and inspected annually from the CCC. That is all that I have for presentation. So I'm happy to turn it back over to you.
Thank you. We will move to questions, comments from the board, beginning with Chairwoman Joyce.
Thank you, Jasmine. Can you expand upon your relationship with SafeLight? There's a letter that says they're a subcontractor. So how do you, who's responsible for security and safety if they're a subcontractor? But so the sale comes from you? Is that how it works? And then is it their security or your security?
Correct. So it's referred to as a courier model. The best way to describe it is almost as an Uber Eats, if you would, or DoorDash, where Nudia would essentially be, let's say we're Chipotle, right? We are the retail operator. Individuals go to our website, they purchase or they make their order, and then we have a third party, in this case, SafeLight, that would operate almost as an Uber, where they would actually facilitate the delivery of the last mile, if you would, from our door to their door. So security from that standpoint, after it leaves our building, would be the responsibility of SafeLight.
Okay, and have you done any modeling as far as how many sales you expect to have or that SafeLight will be delivering in a day or on a weekend? Do you have any
Yeah,
information about that?
in terms of market demand, we don't know, but we do know we do have a limitation, which is the fact that we have one vehicle. And what we've been told and what logistically makes sense, if we were to be successful, or even if it was to be, operate at maximum capacity, that would allow no more than 20 deliveries, 25 deliveries a day. That's the best case scenario with one vehicle.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't think I have any more questions right now.
Thank you. Commissioner Holmes, do you have any questions?
Yeah, who is the Safe Life? Are they licensed through the BCB?
They are not. So SafeLight is a social equity operator that has a courier license. So they have a host community agreement with the city of, or the town, I'm not sure which one, of Holyoke. So our understanding is that because we are the licensee and operator and they are a contractor, that this is a license amendment and not necessarily a new license. That could be, Jasmine, if you could clarify.
Right, yeah, so he's correct. So because they're partnering with a third party delivery, the retailer has to get permission from the BCB to have that partnership. So he's basically here amending his license to ask for permission to partner with Safe Life to do their delivery. So they're not applying for their own delivery license, they're partnering with the third party delivery.
Okay, and what do we, since they're licensed in Holyoke, what do we in Boston have to ensure that do they have to provide us with anything to prove that they have everything in order?
Yep, so every delivery agreement that Nudia has moving forward, they have to give us a copy of the courier's CCC license, their delivery agreement, and a copy of their host community agreement with the town that they are part of. So that's how we keep track of who's doing delivery.
Doing what? Okay, that was all I had. And my question for Nudia is, what has what has come up that has made you figure out that, this delivery is pertinent to your business? Have you had
Actually, it's still
inquiries
going on. Can you just
and
take me
people
right down
requesting
around
it?
the corner?
Sorry, someone unmuted
I know
them.
somebody cut off. Yeah. Did he hear me? Did he get me?
Yeah, I guess what's pertinent. Well, I guess for one, we always wanted to get our legs under us in terms of our operation, ensuring that, we're running a sound business.
Right.
I think for that, what we've also seen is, this is the evolution of what's happening with retail, right? More and more folks, whether it's Amazon, DoorDash,
Hmm.
Uber, more and more folks are gravitating towards home delivery. And obviously, with the demographics in Boston seem to get younger and younger, or actually, it's probably getting older and older every year. It seems like it's a no-brainer for us, and just also the close proximity to the Brighton, Alston areas. It made sense for our business and kind of the growth that we're seeing.
And that's a good, I'm glad and so you're not just planning on delivering just to the Fenway area because you just said Austin, Brighton. So you're planning on being able to deliver across the city.
Yeah, d with this more so than anything, definitely a walk, crawl, walk, run type of scenario where once again, we don't know exactly what the market demand is out there. So it's going to be one of those things where we have one vehicle, one courier that we're working with, and we'll take it one step at a time.
I got it. Okay. And when I know I'm asking a zillion questions, something I should have been doing. Government buildings, would that include like housing developments, senior citizen? Reason I asked this because it popped up. Aren't some senior citizen buildings government? And I know that a lot of seniors are turning to cannabis for medical relief and for certain things. So, would that affect delivering to them if needed?
Yes, and this is where it is a little bit vague based on the CCC regulations. I believe, however, there is a specific map we would have access to that would show those locations, those addresses that we can actually put into a system and populate whether or not they receive any type of specific government funding. Reason why being is that cannabis is federally legal, so obviously they don't
Right.
want these addresses to
They don't
receive
want
it.
it on the property, right? No, I get that. I get that. And that's a good, okay, so your system will populate whether or not that's a place you can actually deliver to.
Correct. And then the other element I should mention too is hotels is also a no-no as
A
well.
no. Yep. And
You,
so those addresses will automatically flag or something when they come into your system.
correct.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's all I got for now. Thank you.
Commissioner Smith,
Thanks, Jasmine. No, I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Gandhi,
No questions. Thanks, Jasmine.
Commissioner Soto.
Hi, yeah. And I apologize if I missed this in the materials, but um, I did see the point that you made, Mr. Bradshaw, your team made about the potential for delivery actually um, decreasing the number of cars on the road. But my question is more about the concern, I think, and I don't know if the community has raised this about double parking. Because when I hear like Ubers and folks who are coming to get the food, especially in the Fenway area, you know, I go through there. I live in Hyde Park, so I go through there quite often, and cutting from downtown, trying to find a quicker way, and folks are double parked, and it's tough. So I think that is a legitimate concern. I'm just wondering how you would sort of maintain a good routine with your folks, seeing as they're not employees, right? And so these are folks who are kind of coming on. Obviously they have they have to have their CCC stuff, but that doesn't mean they're not going to double park because they're trying to get 3 deliveries real quick and run out. So I guess that's a concern that I'm wondering, like, to what degree have you thought that through, and what actions you might take in order to secure, that the lanes, bike lanes, and everything are free of a car that's double parked.
Yep, 100. So if I understand correctly, you're referring to our staff, not necessarily customers or patrons that are visiting.
The Safe Life driver, yeah.
Yep. So it's going to be one vehicle, and we do in the same way that we do deliveries now. So When I say we do deliveries now, as a retailer, we receive wholesale products from deliveries. So in any given day, we could have 4, 5, 6 deliveries of wholesalers delivering us products that we then sell to our customers. So this would be similar to that, where we have a specific section, an alleyway, if you would, where it's off the street, out of sight, it's secured. We're able to fulfill these deliveries. So, and it would operate along those same that same process where it's out of sight and not a nuisance to any of the vehicles. And you're 100% right. I mean, during the day, one of the biggest issues that we tend to have is a lot of those vehicles carrying the alcohol, right, that are constantly replenishing the bars and whatnot. And we've done a great job with navigating them with our current delivery operations. And so I don't view this as being a major stumbling block or anything that's going to add to any additional headaches to the community.
That's helpful, I guess. And maybe I'm gonna do like a little bit more surgical of a question. But for a driver who doesn't know, right? They show up, they got an order through to New Dia, they got to come and pick up, you know, three, a pre-roll pack of thing and something, and then they're off to, in my mind, they're off to then Tasty Burger to pick up a few burgers, and then they're off to somewhere else to then go make their drops, right? And so, how does that driver know to pull in that alley? Or
Well,
or are they solely going to be picking up your order and dropping it?
correct. Solely picking up our order. So when I equated to the Uber Eats, it's similar to Uber Eats, but the difference being is that the individual they'll be familiar, they'll be approved by Nudia, they'll go through training. It's not going to be a random person who is not familiar with our location, our facility, our security. They'll be embedded into our operations and the
Ah,
safe where it's an individual that's actually badged by Safe Light and Nudia.
got you. Thank you. That's the answer I was looking for. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kinsley?
Does this Safe Life company have like similar contracts with other dispensaries that operate in Boston?
Not at the moment.
Okay. And so these drivers will pretty much just be assigned to making deliveries for New Dia. They won't be like going back and forth between New Dia and other dispensaries in other cities and towns nearby, like on the same shift.
Not that no, they wouldn't be.
Okay. And then is the plan for them to like try to take multiple deliveries out at the same time, or would they be just be doing one delivery at a time?
Yep. So once again, it really comes down to demand, which we'll find out. But ideally, what we'd like to do is have blocks of windows, and that's what a lot of delivery operators do now. Is they get a block of window between noon and 2. If the delivery comes in before 10 a.m., they'll deliver during that block. And so I think that's probably the most efficient way to operate, and that's ideally how we like to operate.
Okay. And so, but they're and these drivers are employees of Safe Life, not of New Dia directly, even though they have to get the like license through you too.
They could be what they refer to as dual badged, meaning if we have someone on our team, for instance, we have a great inventory team that is very competent, they understand a lot of the regulations. If they have opportunity to go out and delivery, they could be dual badged with Safe Light. And that actually might provide, more synergy between us and Safe Light. That is an option if someone.
Okay. So that sort of answers my next question then. But so when there is like idle time, if they're waiting for one of the delivery blocks to go out, would the driver then be like inside the dispensary helping pack the orders, or would they just be sitting in the van out in the alleyway, like waiting for everything to be packed up so they could leave?
Yep. So 100% they'd be in the facility, and that's why it makes sense to have that dual badge where they can be doing other activities during their shift. But in no scenario would we just have someone, lingering around in the alleyway or
Okay.
on.
And so would the compensation for that time come from New Dia directly or Safe Life, or would they have to like punch out from New Dia and punch into Safe Life, or how is that arrangement sort of being worked out?
Yep, 100%. So when they are in the vehicle, they are a Safe Life employee on Safe Life time. If they were to be in our facility packing orders, doing dispatch, then they would be a New Dia employee.
And how would that impact like potential overtime accrual if they work, say, like 25 hours for New Dia and 20 hours for Safe Life? Does that mean that they wouldn't be eligible for overtime for either of them, even though they're working over the 40 hours?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, but we use a system called Timeco where people they actually go in, they put their fingerprint in, and it actually timestamps their clocking in and out. I'd have to get more clarification on that because I would view it almost as someone having two different jobs, so they wouldn't qualify for overtime if they're two different companies. It's no different if someone went to go work at, for Chipotle again, and then they went to go work for, McDonald's. I don't know if they would qualify for overtime under that scenario. So it's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
But the way you're envisioning it is that even if they're helping out in in your dispensary first, they would like punch out from New Dia and then punch in order to get into the van and make deliveries that way.
Correct. And they would need to just for the badging as well, so that for the CCC, they're aware of where that employee is located and who they're operating for at that point in time. God forbid something were to happen.
Okay. And then you mentioned kind of planning around the operating hours for Fenway when there are Red Sox games, and you kind of talked a little bit about concerts because obviously there's, Fenway, MGM, House of Blues, multiple concert venues in the area. How do you plan on kind of working around that time? Are there any concerts or events where you had planned on just shutting down the delivery hours altogether, or is it each one you just kind of like try to get an individualized sense of what the traffic impacts were going to be, and you might close down for some or have limited hours for some, and some you might try to operate through?
Yeah, so what typically happens mostly in most cases, one, we have the Red Sox schedule, which is great because we're able to plan out ahead. So that's going to be helpful in regards to the concerts. Each week we receive emails from operators of the House of Blues and then MGM that actually tells us the concerts are happening in the neighborhood. They tell us the number of attendees, and then we get another email from the Red Sox that actually tell us of anything that's going on in the neighborhood. And that pretty much gives us a good indication of the week ahead and what we should expect. And so that's how we operate our business now with our current deliveries of wholesalers. And so it really most likely every single week it's going to be up to us to keep an eye on those changes in the neighborhood. And then if, for instance, if we can't deliver, there's a function within our POS where we can simply just turn off delivery. And yes, it would be an inconvenience to some of the consumers, but that's going to have to just be the nature of how we operate.
So do you have a sense of what that threshold would be where like over a certain amount of attendees you would need to just shut down altogether?
Yeah, for a concert, as long as the street on Lansdowne's open, I don't anticipate us having to shut
Okay.
down. Really, it's just the load in, the load out, and typically they do that during the off hours, meaning the dead of the night.
Okay. All right. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, any other follow-up questions from the board? All right, we'll move to public testimony, beginning with elected officials or their representatives.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and board members. Siggy Johnson with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. This petitioner completed the ONS community process. Our office hosted an abutters meeting on June 2nd, which was properly noticed, at which no concerns were raised. The Fenway Civic Association has written a letter in support of this amendment, which is in the board's possession. With that background, we defer judgment to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam from Councilor Durkin's office.
Good afternoon, everyone, commissioners, members of the board. This is Sam Courage from Councilor Durkin's office. The councilor would like to go in support of this amended proposal for the dispensary and appreciates your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other elected officials or their representatives that would like to speak? Okay, and I don't see anyone that signed up to testify. Would anyone else like to provide testimony on this matter? All right, seeing no one, the board will take this matter under advisement. We will now move to our new license application. The applicant is Legal Greens Boston LLC, doing business as Legal Greens. The proposed license premises 571B Washington Street in Dorchester. They are applying for a marijuana courier and delivery operator license. The proposed hours of operation are 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week. This is an equity applicant. They filed their application on February 28th, 2025. They filed with Inspectional Services on September 19th, 2024, and they held their community meeting on April 8th, 2025. Before we hear the presentation, I will ask Shakia Scott to read the equity certification into the record.
Thank you, Jasmine. Good afternoon, everyone. Our office was able to certify Legal Greens Boston LLC, or Legal Greens, as an equity applicant through the documentation submitted by the applicant Vanessa Jean Baptiste. Ms. Jean Baptiste is the president, CEO, and 51% beneficial interest holder of Legal Greens, meeting the 51% ownership interest threshold set forth in the ordinance. Ms. Jean Baptiste meets the following criteria: a person who has resided in an area of disproportionate impact as defined by the Cannabis Control Commission, or CCC, for at least 5 of the past 10 years. She submitted bank statements establishing Boston residency, copies of her expired and most recent licenses, and other billing statements to prove residency in both Brockton and Randolph. And both Brockton and Randolph have been designated as areas of disproportionate impact per CCC guidelines. She also meets a person who is of Black, African American, Hispanic, Latino, Asian, or Indigenous descent. She self-identifies as Black and of Haitian descent and provided her driver's license and birth certificate. And lastly, a person whose annual household income is at or below 100% of the area median income. She submitted a notarized letter from a certified CPA confirming her household income, which does fall below 100% of the area median income for Brockton. Are there any other questions about this certification?
Thank you, Shadia. Who is present on behalf of Boston Legal Greens?
Tito Jackson.
Mark Bouquet.
Okay, you will have 10 minutes. You can share your screen and begin.
Okay. My name is Tito Jackson. I am a resident of 37 Schuyler Street in Boston for the past 50 years. I have been brought on as a consultant for community engagement to help Legal Greens in this process. We have engaged in a extensive community outreach process and met with and contacted all of the organizations in the area that we were told to speak with. We were able to receive a letter of support from Councilor Worrell, who is the district councilor. Also, another letter of support from Councilor Lejeune, Madam President of the Boston City Council. We also got a letter of non-opposition from the Codman Square Neighborhood Council. It should be noted that all other applicants that had gone to Codman Square Neighborhood Council had received letters of opposition in the past. So we were very happy to receive this letter. And I will just note that this is a proposal for courier and delivery operator, but we have actually received and would like to keep the door open for future opportunities to potentially open a dispensary. I will note because in doing work on the building recently, we've actually had 40 to 50 people a day actually ask for a dispensary to be back in the location. But I digress. This is actually a proposal for the delivery and courier operator. I will hand it over to and Vanessa. Was this?
Hello. I'm gonna share my screen. Are you guys able to see it?
Yes.
Okay, so like Tito Jackson said, we are doing a delivery courier operation. My name is Vanessa Jean Baptiste, and I'm one of the owners of Legal Greens. I have 51% ownership of Legal Greens. We have been open for 20 years.
Mark, sorry, Mark, I'm gonna mute you because Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No worries. Yeah, so I'm one of the owners of Legal Greens. We have been operating in Brockton for 4 years now. I do majority of the ordering when it comes to products, clothing. I do all the bundle deals and anything that has to do with like products and operations with the SOPs. The sales floor has to do with me. Mark?
Hi, so thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. We truly appreciate the opportunity. My name is Mark Bouquet. I've worked in retail for over 20 years, and for the past 4 years, I've been operating Legal Greens cannabis dispensary focused on responsible operations, community engagement, and equity. We could go to the next slide. So 571B Washington Street, Dorchester. Why we chose this location is an ideal location due to the existing cannabis infrastructure, minimal renovations. It already has a vault, secured access control. It's located in a dense area. The previous retail operator faced no challenges with respect to parking. The location reduces upfront costs and maximizes logistical efficiency. So we plan to do a delivery operator and a courier. How that helps out, we have our Brockton location that we would be able to, deliver to the South Shore area with the courier license, and with the Dorchester location, we'd be able to, same thing, deliver within the inner city of Boston. Our vehicles are going to be unmarked. We're going to be leaving at staggered times. It's going to be batch orders. So 3, 4, 5 times a day, delivery driver will come to our back location, load it up with product, and then deliver it right to the consumer. As you can go to the next slide. For security, like I said, the facility includes a CCC compliant vault and access control. Agent only access with visitor log if anybody else would be coming in the building. Robust camera system, and the whole building would be under surveillance 24 hours. The vehicle security would be equipped with GPS tracking, body-worn cameras, unmarked vehicles, randomized deliveries, and no product or cash stored in the vehicles overnight. Every delivery requires identification, and any discrepancies would be immediately reported to the CCC or law enforcement. Next slide.
Okay, so the slide is our prevention of diversity. There would be no cannabis will be sold on this property. There would be no display of any cannabis being sold at the property. Our vehicles will be discreet, and all signage will comply with local ordinances. We will actively address any issues or concerns that the community may have. Prevention of nuisance. Legal Greens maintains a strict policy and protects the youth to comply with the state regulations. We do not market or advertise to individuals under 21 and prohibit any content being sold to minors. We will only hire people that are 21 or over. Our website is, it has a marking where you have to verify that you are 21 to even enter the to enter the website. And all of our packaging will have notes saying that no one under 21 are allowed to order or receive any of these products. Our next slide is city. Right now, what we do at our retail store, we have 2 workshops that help people to get into the cannabis industry. I'm the one that actually does that program. It's like a 2-hour program. We put it on the newspaper and we put it in our stores as well, that we're doing a program, and anybody that wants to be in the marijuana industry or wants to know how to get into the marijuana industry, I show them how to do an application with the city and with the state, and once you get provisional, the extra steps that you have to do to actually get commenced. And then our second goal is that we are focused on hiring minorities. In our store right now, we have 40 people, and I would feel like 39 of them are either Haitian, TPS holders that are Haitian, Blacks, and Cape Verdeans that represent the area in Brockton. And we would do the same thing in Boston as well. And then
All right. So, like Vanessa just spoke about, our current staff in Brockton definitely replicates what the community is, and we plan on continuing to do that in Boston as well. So, we plan on hiring 80% residents, 66 from minority communities such as Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan, and at least 5 women on the staff. The wages would go for drivers, depending on your, driving record, $16 to $18, managers up to $25. We have benefits including medical, dental, PTO, and annual performance-based promotions. This is something that we already do on the side as well. 40 hours of earned time off after working for a year. So after our staff has been working with us for a year, we give them an additional 40 hours just for them, kind of relax, take some time off with your family. We're committed to second chance hiring, aiming for 25% of employees with prior convictions. Recruitment will happen through civic organizations, job fairs, and targeted media. Next slide. Oh, I just spoke about that. And so Tito said we got community support from our elected officials, as well as Russell Holmes, Melville Park, Cafe Juice Up as Business, Here's My Destiny, Here It Is Barbershop, and we do have an upcoming meeting with TNT just to continue engaging with the community. Next slide. So we're committed to maintaining open lines of communication with stakeholders through tours. We're also our record in Brockton demonstrates our ability to operate with transparency, compliance, and deep commitment to the community. And legal seeks to replicate this excellence in Dorchester, bringing equitable cannabis opportunities, local hiring, and economic development to Boston's neighborhood. Thank you for your time. We support and are happy to answer any questions.
And if it pleases the board, I just want to note that I did make a mistake on some of the support non-opposition, and the slide is correct. So I defer to the written.
Thank you. We'll begin with comments and questions from the board members, beginning with Chairman Joyce.
Thanks, Jasmine. I'm not sure who I should direct this question to, but why are you just going for courier and delivery operator? Do you plan on coming back to us for retail in the future?
Yes, so we started with just the intentions to do courier and delivery operations, but after having the community meetings, people in the community said they would like a place to be able to go into as well. But our intentions were to add on to our legal greens in Brockton, be able to deliver to the South Shore, and be able to deliver out around the Boston area.
Okay, my next question is, we're in a position, the board is in a position to do what we can to see operators succeed. And we take a look at these applications through various elements and different lenses. And I believe there was previously a retail shop here, and it appears it didn't succeed because they are no longer there. So can you explain to me why you would succeed and what happened and what's going on here about that?
So the other operator, I'm not sure why they didn't succeed, except for that I know that they didn't pay some bills. Now, why they didn't do that is I can't answer that. But we've been operating for 4 years in Brockton. We've been successful enough to purchase the property in 571B Washington Street. We own it, and so it just makes sense, and I think we'll be fine with how we operate. I'm not sure on how the other
But
company
now
is
you
operating.
also own the building.
Yes, we do.
Okay, and I'm just looking at the letter of intent, the landlord's low key, and the two members of low key are you and Michael Maloney.
No, it's called Low Key Realty.
Low Key Realty, it's signed by,
Yes.
oh, Low Key
Yes.
Realty is owned by Michael Maloney, who is also 9% interest
And
in Legal Greens,
correct. And Vanessa and I are on that as owners as well.
of Legal Greens, but not the building.
No, of the realty as well.
Oh, so,
Yeah.
okay.
So he's the manager, but he's the manager, but we are part of it as well. If you
Okay, I might have more questions, but I will defer to the other commissioners right now.
Commissioner Holmes?
Sure.
Could you just be a little bit more extensive about your security plans for the building and for the product and for your vehicles and your driver?
So yeah, the building has already been approved by the Cannabis Control Commission because it was a
How about you
dispensary.
now, though? Not what was done before. What you gonna do?
The same exact thing. The same cameras are in place, same location. I'm just gonna change the company that they were using and add my company, which is Cetronics, which we've been using for 4 years in Brockton and been operating compliantly. So in terms of the vehicle, cameras will be on the outside, cameras will be on the inside, body cameras for our employees that are doing the deliveries, and yeah, we're just going to operate compliantly with what all the regulation requires us to.
So how many vehicles are you planning on starting out with?
2 vehicles,
And how many drivers per vehicle?
two drivers per vehicle.
And where would you be storing these vehicles after hours?
So we own both locations, one in Brockton in our secured parking lot that has camera access as well, and the other one in Boston.
Where would you
Same
be
thing.
storing the vehicles when you're utilizing them in Boston?
Behind the property that has camera footage, private property in
So
the
what
back.
does the back of that building look? I mean, is it a secure parking lot? Does it have a fence? What does it look like?
Yeah, it's secured with cameras. I wouldn't call it an alleyway, but it's a driveway that goes in the back.
Yeah.
And it's
And-
secured. The cameras
and-
would be on it. Good.
Yeah, and Commissioner Holmes, at the end of the day, particularly if someone, typically this does not happen in cannabis, people usually wait for their order. But if at the end of the day, there was
Tito,
any
your
product that was brought back, that product is actually stored in.
Yeah.
Tito, you're fading in and out, so I'm not getting your whole answer.
Yeah, your connection is
Messing up.
and you're muted now.
What Tito was trying to say, I believe, is that any products that are left in the vehicle, they are gonna go back into the actual store, either our Brockton location or our Boston location. Our vehicles will be parked in the back of the store of our Brockton location or our Boston location. And we wouldn't have any products in the vehicle itself overnight.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're going to be utilizing a lot of your product and inventory from Brockton to do your deliveries business and stuff here in Boston.
No, we're gonna have products being dropped off at the store in Boston as well. So we're the same deliveries, the same companies that we use in Brockton, we're gonna use in Boston. We're gonna have deliveries come into Boston. They're gonna deliver in the back, how Loki has it right now in their back parking lot driveway. There's a back door. They will come in, will do the product, receive the products, and then as people do deliveries within the time frames that they do it in, the drivers will come in the back discreetly. We will fill up the vans to fill up the van to then, because one will be located in Brockton, one will be located in Boston. So our Boston location will have one van, and that will do the deliveries within the Boston location.
And so how your products, where are you going to be getting your Boston products for? Let's just only talk about Boston right now. Where would you be getting all your Boston product from?
From vendors, cannabis vendors that are approved by the CCC. They will come do deliveries in the back. We'll have an inventory personnel to receive the product and then have a dispatcher dispatch the products to people that do deliveries.
And how many people do you have, or are you planning on having working to help you fulfill all these orders and stuff?
12.
12. And that's specifically for Washington Street, 12 people.
Hmm?
And that includes your drivers as well as your your in-house staff too,
Our
right?
in-house staff, our manager staff, the dispatcher, all in-house at 12 from the beginning. And then we'll see how the market goes. If we need to expand, we'll expand. If not, then we'll just keep that 12.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Commissioner Smith?
Thanks, Jasmine. So, Mark, you're going into where Low Key was, right? Right next to the
Correct.
liquor store, and there's this old Citizen Bank at the corner, which is now an open space.
Correct.
So you guys entered through the back of that bank, where there's a parking lot that's actually wide open. So you come.
No, not the parking lot. On Aspen Wall Street, there's it's an easement. The parking lot is closed off. I think they're working. Citizens Bank is working. I feel like on that
Well,
parking
that
lot,
space
they're
is
using it
open
for
for that space behind Citizen Bank is open. So you're saying they closed that one off?
I think they're doing
Yes.
apartments in that parking lot. It's fenced off, it's closed off. They have stuff
Okay.
in the lot.
But you're going to be right near there in the back.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
there's a driveway that attaches to Citizens, our location, and the liquor store.
And the liquor store.
The
Is that
liquor
where the liquor
store
store also gets deliveries?
Yeah, they get
They're
deliveries.
using the
Yeah,
same
they
space?
get deliveries as well. I'm sorry?
They're using that same space?
Correct.
The liquor store
But
that's right there.
we're parking it overnight, and they open at 9 a.m. We'll be gone by then.
They open at 9 a.m. and you're working overnight?
No.
Is that what you said? No.
No, I said by the time they get there, the vehicle will have already been on its way to do the first delivery at 9 a.m. So they use that same to get their deliveries, just like we would use that same to get our deliveries.
From when we've been there, they've only had like one delivery on a day-to-day basis. Not every day, but within the week they'll have like 2 deliveries.
And that could change, or just that's the average, you're saying?
No, that's how it is. We've
Okay.
asked them how often they do deliveries.
But you guys are using the same space. Okay. 12 employees, what's the pay rate?
16, 18 for the drivers, up to 25 for the managers.
16, 18 for drivers. And what's the other one?
Up to 25 for the management.
25. How many of them are management there?
We'll probably
Out
have
of
3
that 12.
managers.
Okay.
I'm sorry? Yep.
Out of
3
that 12,
managers.
probably 3 of them are managers?
Correct.
Okay. 16, 18.
Because we need to oversee the inventory that's happening per the regulations. We have to do inventory daily. So they'll be doing that and, just the overall operations as well. And we'll be open for 7 days a week. So,
And you're doing new hiring for this store, right?
correct. We do all the hiring.
We've actually had people that used to work at Low Key sending us emails for their resume, and we're separating that. So once we open, we're gonna start calling them and letting them know that we are in the process of hiring if they still want to work at that location.
All right. Thank you.
Commissioner Gondi?
Thank you, Jasmine. I have a couple of questions. So you talked a little bit about your signage program in your presentation, which I really appreciated. And given what you just also discussed about possibly opening as a retail location in the future, do you have any kind of renderings or what your signage will look like as a current delivery business, and then what it might look like if you wanted to open up as a retail location? I know you comply with the signage regulations, but what will that look like? Because that street I want to make sure the streets are and storefronts are clean. It's very clear that this is an existing business. It's not something that someone can come in and, it's not a vacant storefront, so to speak, but it's a business. But how do we what does the signage look like for your current plan is my question.
So if it's just like right now for delivery, it'd be no signs up front. We wouldn't put any signage in the front, and our employees would access the back. When we do propose and are able to do a retail there, it would literally just be a legal greens, similar to how Low Key had up there. Not huge. It would fit and match the proper storefront that's there right now.
I guess the question is, how do we ensure that it doesn't look like a vacant, unused storefront for folks to potentially, I hate to use this word, but vandalize or enter without any permission. And so I'm just, want to encourage you to think about, kind of keeping that storefront clean, that there's someone in there, that it's not an empty vacant storefront for folks to kind of take advantage of, and so that's where I'm going with this. And any opportunity to clean up our streets and clean up our storefronts and kind of make sure that they're that they're used, that they're respected is always a good one. So I'd like to see some thought on what that would look like.
Well,
Yeah, so we oh sorry, but we've been there daily and we've been cleaning up the front. The windows are cleaned. Right now we put brown paper on there just because we're not actually operating as of the second, but there's grates that pull down and you can see that the grates pull down. So and when we do operate it, the grates will be up. People will not be able to access it. If it's just delivery. When it's retail, we'll have a receptionist up there that will be able to take IDs and you'll be able to see that it's a clean storefront and it has a reception area that is nice and visible and clean. But we've been there since we've gotten the keys and we've been keeping the front clean. The liquor store next to us, they do that as well. So and we've been in communications with keeping the area clean. That's definitely part of something that we want to do.
Thank you.
We own the property, so it just makes sense for it to be clean and nice.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's it's seen as a place that is a business, even though it's not open to the public at this point, and that's not what we're kind of voting on today. But it's a occupied business, and it should be seen as such.
Commissioner Soto?
Thank you, Jasmine, and thank you, Legal Greens team, Council Jackson. I actually had a similar kind of construction of a question as Commissioner Gandhi, because when I see delivery license and then I look at the picture of the storefront, it was a little bit of like, wait, what? And so I guess to dovetail on Councilor Gandhi's point, if there is a way, I'm sure it's probably an egress question, but if there is a way to put some planters or something that is stopping folks from thinking that they can just walk in, right? Because that's, I think, a major kind of point. But also B, makes it look nice, right? So it's like it kind of like both and, right? And so if there was a way to sort of make that happen, I think that would, in the short term, kind of answer the two things that the commissioner was pointing out as well.
And Commissioner Soto, just to note that picture was the picture in the previous state of the property. That property was a full burnout prior. But we wanted it also to be sensitive. There was a prior business there, and we thought that it would be inappropriate to show the picture of the prior business, so we didn't want to put that in front of the board. So it doesn't currently look like that. So it's not that boarded up picture that you saw is actually not the current state that it is in. It has actually been upgraded since that time. And if you'd like, we can give you a picture of the frontage.
I mean, I think it'd be helpful, just as we're considering all the factors. Sure.
Any other questions, Commissioner Soto?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Commissioner Kinsley?
I saw in the application materials that you had gotten a like order of refusal from the Boston Zoning Board. Was that just because it had been zoned for retail use and its delivery instead?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you have to just apply for a special permit to them to get around that?
Zoning
Correct.
refusal is only per an applicant. So because they're a new applicant, they have to get their own refusal. So
Okay.
that's how it works.
Okay. And then for the employment plan, so you only had it listed for like the management and drivers. Do you intend to have like all the people working in-house on the same like wage scale plan as the rest of the drivers, or are people going to be working kind of like back and forth between the different positions?
Yeah, so there's going to be like an in-house crew, but we usually we start between 17 and 18 currently right now. So it's just going to be in that range. It won't go any lower than that.
But drivers, you said, are starting at 16?
Between 16 and 18.
Oh, 16 and 18.
Depending on their driving record. Yeah, depending on their driving record. And that's what would bring them down to the 16. But like other in-house workers, majority of them will start at 17 or 18. Sorry, we missed that on there.
Okay. And so are the drivers and the in-house workers going to be classified separately, or are they going to be like all kind of lumped into one pile and people might work in-house one day, driving another day?
Some people want to be drivers. So it's just going to be based on the staff at that point. Some people might want to be drivers. Some might want to be, packagers. So yeah, like, for example, what I saw right now, some people are reception, they're bud tender, or they play both roles depending on what they like to do. So we're just going to kind of keep that open.
Okay. Those are my only questions.
Any other follow-up questions from the board members? All right, we'll move to public testimony, beginning with elected officials or their
I
representatives.
just wanted to add that this is what the actual place looks like at the moment. So everyone knows that it's not the boarded up one that we showed on the on our presentation. Can everyone see it?
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. All right, let's stop sharing.
Connor.
Yeah, sorry. Madam Chair, members of the board, Connor Newman with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. At this time, the Mayor's Office would like to defer to the judgment of this board. Some background information in the community process. ONS had hosted a public meeting on April 8th that was well attended. There were a number of abutters who had questions on how the operation would go with the couriers and the deliveries. The applicant was able to address those concerns and answer those questions, explaining that there would be the loading and the pickup would be in the rear of the structure. It would not impact parking in the front. There were some residents that had concerns regarding not so much with the operation of the proposed dispensary, but how the previous dispensary at this location was ultimately displaced. There are also one or two other residents who just had concerns overall with the number of dispensaries located in Dorchester. There were also a number of supporters that were on as well, including some store owners on the strip. We did receive 2 letters in support, which we forwarded to the board. And also, as mentioned, the Cobden Square Neighborhood Association issued a non-opposition letter, which we have also forwarded to the board as well. With that information, we'll defer to the board at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Connor. Are there any other elected officials or their representatives that would like to speak? All right, seeing none. Luke, did anyone sign up to testify on this?
Not for this matter, no.
Okay. Is there anyone that would like to provide testimony for this matter? All right, seeing no one, the board will take this matter under advisement. All right, so the board's voting meeting for the amendment that we heard and for the new license application will take place next Wednesday, June 18th at 1 p.m. And the record will be kept open until Monday, June 16th at 5 p.m. We will now move to our reconsideration. The board is in receipt of a resident's petition for reconsideration of the vote that was taking place on May 28th, in which the board granted I&I Garden LLC an amendment to their hours to operate from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Wednesday through Sunday. So how this is going to work, we're going to hear from a representative of a person who submitted the petition. We are going to let I&I give a brief rebuttal. The board will then vote. If the vote passes, we will then hear from I&I again about their request to change their hours. And then we would take public testimony, and then there will be another vote after that. So we will begin. Is there a representative who was a part of the petition that is on the call?
Ms. Nguyen, I can jump in here. Alessandro Frizzoco, 166 Metropolitan Avenue. I live a half mile from the 22 Birch Street location. In conversation with neighbors over the last couple of weeks, we have significant concerns about the extended hours of this business. The concerns are three. The first is that the location is particular. The 22 Birch Street location is not really on a street, it's a legacy name. Birch Street is now a pedestrian plaza that has public seating throughout most of the year. And so residents are concerned about the ability of patrons to congregate before or after purchasing products. And so there's a site location concern. Additionally, there are two dispensaries, 0.3 and 0.7 miles from the location. And residents would just like to note that among residential neighborhoods, Rosendale is second only to Dorchester, with 3 already operating dispensaries 7 days a week. And although Dorchester has 4, they have a population of 122,000 people. Rosendale has a population of 29,000 people. Beyond that, I would note that residents are concerned about the progression of the application and the way that it's evolved considerably over the years. The original petition was for a manufacturing site for edibles. And now the petitioner, or the applicant is moving toward a full license. And so the concern really is that the applicant, the LLC group, has continually pushed the envelope in terms of what the original site plan was for and what's now being considered. I would just finally note that in all of the conversations that we had, it seemed as though residents who have been in Rosendale for a number of years are concerned about the movement on this project. And we also noted that there were some business owners who expressed their opposition previously, who are wary of continuing to publish their names in opposition because of the potential business backlash in terms of their own customer bases and livelihoods, because of the sensitivities around this particular application. I know that there's some other people from the area on the call, and so I'll let them speak a little bit more about their individual concerns.
Okay. So like I said, we just wanted one person from the petition to speak to the merits of the position, and et cetera. So we'll move to any questions. Do any of the board members have any questions for this petitioner? Okay. I don't.
Sorry,
Oh,
just one question. Whether Alessandro, you or someone within the group that has been having the conversations and feedback, have you or anyone in that group had a direct conversation with folks at I&I?
I cannot speak for all of the signatures. There were about 30 people that signed the petition. I have not personally.
Okay. And just full disclosure, like I'm going to ask I&I the same question, right? But I just want to just have an understanding because, yeah. So thank you, Jasmine. That was it.
Any other questions from the board members?
Yeah, I had a quick question. I mean, without having to get into like any specific names or anything, could you just say a little bit more about what you mean by like the fear of backlash that make people not want to attach their names to it anymore?
I think that, that's not from a resident point of view, it's from a business point of view. Obviously, the Rosendale Square business community is a tight-knit group. There are a lot of small storefronts that have been there for many, many years. I think that as public um, perception of cannabis has shifted to a more progressive liberal position, certain business owners in the square who are a little bit more skeptical of the number and concentration of dispensaries are just cautious about attaching their name um, to a letter that opposes a dispensary because of the potential impact that it may have on their own livelihoods. I think that a lot of patrons that they have may be in support of dispensaries in general, perhaps not of the exact location and hours, but I think that that's the concern that we heard in conversation with some of the people in the square.
Okay, so it's not as much about anything like with this application specifically as just like being worried that they'll seem like they're in favor of maintaining the kind of old carceral attitudes towards cannabis in general.
I wouldn't say the latter half of that. I don't think that they're necessarily in favor of those attitudes. I think that
Not that they're in favor of it, but that it would appear that they are.
yes, I think that people are worried about the perception, and again, purely perception, not reality. There, I think that it's really an issue of concentration. I mean, a lot of the people that we talk to are not against cannabis. It's just that it seems as though the applications in Roslindale have moved forward with a cadence that is unusual or exceptional. I would say relevant to the other residential neighborhoods of the city of Boston, and so people are concerned about the waiver on the half-mile distance between one location and another. Additionally, many of the other sites that are currently in review in JP, West Roxbury, and Hyde Park are pretty close to Rosendale Square. And so it seems as though we're quickly moving in a direction where there could be more than a dozen dispensaries within a mile and a half, 2 mile area of Rosendale Square. And that's where residents are expressing their concern.
Any other? Chairman Joyce?
Thanks. Just a comment. I'm not sure, Alessandra, if you realize that the number of cannabis licenses that the city gives out is related to the number of package store licenses. So we do anticipate the city of Boston of having lots of places that do pierce the buffer zone. That being said, could you let us know how these signatures were, well, they're not even signatures, how these names were gathered?
Sure. There was a group of people who were concerned after the vote on the 28th, who were on the phone with one another. And then there was some organic conversation that just happened over the last couple of weekends between neighbors. I think that if you look at the signatures of the petitioners, you'll realize that many of them are, a few blocks from one another. But it was people hopping on the phone, calling one another, emailing.
Did you take the lead on this?
I was one of the lead people, yes.
Okay, and how far away do you live from Bird Street?
I live a half mile. I'm on Metropolitan Avenue.
And how far away do you live from the other cannabis establishment?
It's roughly equivalent from the Washington Street location, a little bit further than the South Street location, but then I am actually closer as well to the American Legion Highway location. And so I'm right in the middle of a triangle of 3 other cannabis locations.
Okay, were you on the last hearing?
I was not.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Any follow-up questions from the board? All right, the I&I team, if you want to give a brief rebuttal, this is not a full presentation, this is just a rebuttal to the petition, and then the board will vote if they're going to reconsider the extension of hours.
Great. Good morning, Jasmine and the board. Thank you for hearing us today. As you are aware, last night we submitted a counter petition to the petition that was submitted with 55 names on it. And since then, we've gotten 4 more people signed on. We also did an online petition that has over 60. All 59 of the names on the petition that we submitted to you are Roslindale residents or business owners. To let you know how we got to those people, they are people that I've been in contact with, business owners over the years. We also walked the streets of the neighborhood, explained the situation of what was going on to people, and we received an incredible outpouring of support. To review our counter petition, we strongly urge the board to leave the decision as it was. If the board is going to reconsider anything today, they should just be reconsidering giving us the full 7 days instead of the 5 that we were compromised on. Throughout this process, community engagement was met and exceeded. Throughout the years, we have participated in multiple rounds of community processing. We applied for our retail license at the same exact time that we applied for our product manufacturing license. So the petition that was submitted to you is misinformed. We've not skated anything. We've gone through the same exact processes and requirements, if not more, than some of the other cannabis locations, specifically Rosendale Cannabis Co. At every stage, public input was invited and addressed. The request for extended hours and the rationale for shifting from the original bakery forward concept to a sustainable retail model has been discussed openly. There has been nothing to hide. We've explained many times how distraught this industry is, which is probably part of the reason why our competitors are so scared of us coming onto the scene. The reversing of the decision right now would be extremely unreasonable and harmful to our business. We proceeded forward based on the decision that the board made. This costs money and this costs time. I today stand before you with less than $100 in my bank account. Rosendale Cannabis Co. owners are literal millionaires that own millions of dollars of real estate in the neighborhood, including the building that they exist in, something I'll never have the privilege of having. I am an equity applicant, one of the only ones, the only one in Rosendale actually, and this business is 51% owned by me and 75%, 76% women owned altogether. We, again, proceeded with operations based on the decision that the board made on the 28th. And reversing this decision now would cause further delays and, again, unnecessary financial strain on, again, a local equity-owned business. I also want to address the plaza. Birch Street Plaza is a public mixed-use space. It's not a private residential courtyard. It includes a brewery right now. So we must know and understand that responsible adult use is part of that environment. Furthermore, we have never done anything to indicate that we would allow people to consume. In fact, we have gone above and beyond to say that we will monitor the street to make sure that people aren't, and we will educate patrons of our store to make sure that they understand that they cannot consume. The concerns about it being a child and family-friendly space are pretty irrelevant in this request, considering the fact that we are requesting Monday through Thursday for hours of operation. We're already approved to operate retail Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Those are the times that the plaza is most utilized by families. Anybody who lives in this area and is in this area knows that that plaza is not utilized Monday through Thursday during the day, especially by families. Furthermore, the plaza is only really utilized for 1 to 2 seasons a year because, again, it's an outdoor space. And I just want to repeat that no evidence has been presented to suggest that our company has contributed to any nuisance of behavior or intends to. I do want to press the board to say that clarity around community engagement is urgently needed. We need to understand as business owners and operators what position the community plays in this. I think it's really unfair that we've even been presented with this rebuttal because, again, we are a business. We are operating every day. The fact that the board can make a decision, 27 people can sign, not even sign, as you mentioned, send in a petition with their names and addresses on it, and that could possibly cause the board to reconsider. The board needs to maintain this decision for the integrity of the board's own decision-making process. If the idea is that any time someone doesn't like a suggestion or something that the board...
This is, can we just take, this is about a reconsideration of your hours.
But this is
topic.
relevant within it. I do really feel, though, Jasmine, that this is really relevant within it because this community processing, what has happened in the last several months is very, very heavy on me personally. My name has been slandered throughout the community by some of these people. And I do really want to make sure that everybody understands what their role is, understand that we have, again, exceeded the community engagement that was required of us in this process. The whole idea about that we're hiding things or anything like that, that's really not true. And I really do just want to push that forward. So again, that's our position. I don't want to upset the board in any way, but I do want to be honest about how I feel in this process. It takes a lot out of me personally every time I have to come back to this board, and I don't want to have to even come back in 6 months for another request because they're going to just do this all again. But I will just go back to say that again. We submitted a counter petition with more than double the names on it than what they had, double the residents and business owners. And I really hope that you will take that into consideration. I don't think 27 people should be the people that make the decision about this. If you look at the demographic of people on that list compared to the demographic of people on our list, you'll note that our demographic is a much clearer representation of the Rosendale community at large. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any questions or comments for the I&I Rose team?
My only comment is we received this petition, and as chair of the board, I felt obligated to bring it forward in the event that perhaps members of the community were not fully aware of what was being requested. Sounds like Mr. Frazzoco was not aware of what was going on until after we voted. How that happens, I don't know. I thought, we tried to have a very robust community process, and it's appearing through this petition that these people didn't know about it. So I just feel obligated to bring it forward. It's requesting our reconsideration. So that's where we are today.
May I just offer one line of clarity? I think it's important to note that I don't know any of the owners of any of the other dispensaries. I don't think that Ms. Rose was necessarily insinuating that, but I know that some of her remarks were pointed toward one of the other dispensaries. I've personally never been in any of the Rosendale dispensaries, and I have no affiliation with the owners of those groups. I just want the record to be clear on that.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the board members have any additional questions for the I&I Rose team? Commissioner Soto?
Ms. Rose, thank you for your rebuttal and for taking the time to participate in this. My question is about once the scuttlebutt kicked up about this change, had you reached out directly to any of the folks, or had you received communication from any of the folks who were troubled by this and concerned about the impact?
Just to clarify, do you mean regarding this petition specifically, or in general since we've been getting opposition since February?
In the run-up to the petition being done, so maybe it was an individual outside of someone who signed the petition, but also expressed to you their concerns.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I just want. Please, yeah, I'm happy to share that. So first of all, we've had multiple conversations with community members through the community meetings we orchestrated and set up, and we listened to everybody's concerns and addressed everybody as not even just in the moment, but then we came back with additional meetings to address further concerns.
For more clarity for everybody, and how were those meetings communicated or publicized?
Through many channels, but the most prominent of which is that we flyered the neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I also do just want to point out that this opposition kicked off in February and has been strongly led by the owners of Rosendale Cannabis Co. From that very day that they opposed us, I went into their store to have a conversation with them about this situation. I explained to them I'm an equity applicant. I've been in this process for 5 years, and that I really wished that instead of having this kind of strife between us, we could find a way to work together. They refused that offer and said they'd rather go about it this way.
Okay, fair enough. All right, that's helpful. Thank you. And then Oh, there's one more question that popped into my head and it fell out. I don't know. If anyone else has a question, I'll see if I can think of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I thought of it. Sorry. Um, had you, so I think we had this conversation previously. Had you contacted the local elected officials?
In the past, yes, since February, I've been in touch with the local elected officials. Yes, not regarding this petition specifically, but yes, regarding this issue, yes.
Okay, that was it. Thank you.
And I believe Enrique Pepin did write a letter of non-opposition where he also expressed the need to allow businesses to pivot models as needed.
Yes, we have that letter. Thank you. I just want to make sure that you had that conversation because I know we had talked about that previously.
We certainly have.
Okay, great.
Commissioner Holmes?
Ms. Rose, have you ever been opened as any faction of what your original business plan was that we originally approved?
Yes, we operated as a product manufacturing facility for about 10 months until we ran out of cash flow. We had $0.
And you keep talking about February. What was February? Is February when you decided to pivot your business plan?
No, I decided to pivot years ago. February is when we came to the board for the extension of hours approval, and that was the first I learned about some of this community opposition.
Okay, so when was the last time that you were actually functioning opened as a manufacturing bakery?
October 2023.
October 2023. That was the last time you were open as a business. So since October until February, the plan has, and I understand for financial reasons why things have to change. I do understand that. So, okay, so the last time you were actually open was October of 2023, and that was under the hours that we originally proposed, which was the Friday through.
We were doing product manufacturing at that time. So we were operating Monday through Thursday. And we had already been approved at that time for retail hours Friday through Sunday.
Friday through Sunday. So what were you retailing Friday through Sunday?
We've never done retail.
So you've never done retail. You only were doing the manufacturing part.
Correct.
Through October. Okay. So
if I could just go ahead.
No, let me finish.
Sure.
So I can get it right. So I know, and the reason I say this because I always thought that your business was very unique, the bakery and that stuff. And then I know for me, that was the reason why I voted for it. When you were doing retail, what were you selling?
When we were doing product manufacturing, we were selling baked goods. What we found was that the market just didn't support it. We couldn't be successful, which is why we decided to pivot to full retail. However, I do just want to include the fact that we are committed to having a boutique store, to still upholding a lot of the original design and plan, the apothecary
I don't have
style.
a problem with that. That's not the problem. The problem is, to me, in my mind, the problem is that we have changed our business plan because your retail, in my mind, was for baked goods, not dispensary items. That's the dilemma here with your license. I don't begrudge you for having to pivot because this is a tough thing to do, and it takes an awful lot of money. And I understand why you have to switch business plans. I get that. The fact is that in order to change the business plan, you have to come back before us with a new business plan because now you want to sell marijuana products as opposed to the bakery items, which in my mind, and if I'm wrong, I admit it, in my mind, that was the license that I voted for you for, was the bakery products, not actual marijuana I mean, if you know what I mean, flour, stuff like that.
I hear what you're saying. I do just want to say that we always had the intention that we were going to have cannabis products in the store.
I get that, but that's not what we licensed you for.
Ma'am, can I just say what I was saying? So we always have that intention. Yes, the bakery goods were, the hope was that they were going to be the dominant product in it. But I do just want to point out that it's not like we got a bakery license. It's not like we went through a different process. We obtained a retail license. We had to go through the same
I
process.
disagree with you. I totally disagree with you. I totally disagree with you. In my mind, and if I'm wrong, the chairperson is sitting right here. In my mind, I believe that your license was for manufacturing and baked good retailer, not complete cannabis.
That there's no baked goods and retailer license.
Yes.
There's only a retail license.
Yes, Commissioner Holmes, the way the licenses are set up, they're not set up for, like you said, she was doing baked goods. So she would have to get a product manufacturer license to cook. That's what a product manufacturer license is. Now, in order for her to sell it, she had to get retail. There's not a retail bakery. There's not a retail, it's just retail, period. So you
Well, you
can't
know
cut
what
off.
then? You know what? Then that's the fault of the license. And this is a lesson for us because, like I said, when I voted back in 23 or whenever we gave this lady her license, because I clearly remember thinking how unique her product was and what she wanted to do. And the fact that we allowed her to pierce the buffer zone for me, was specifically because she was doing a unique boutique type of business. And it wasn't just regular marijuana retail. So this is a clear lesson for all of us as to whether we need to start having some kind of demarcation as to what the technical retail license is for, so we don't step into this bomb again.
I agree. And I also will say that I hope that I'm not going to be penalized for this, because even when I decided to obtain a retail license, I still knew that there was a possibility that we were going to have to, that the idea of, majority baked goods might not win, might not be successful. And it was even less successful than I had anticipated. I also want to point out that we created our business plans in 2020 and 2021. We didn't even get licensed to start until January 2023. And upon coming into the market at that time, the market had also significantly changed from the time that we had proposed our business plan to the time that we got there. If I had the understanding that we were only getting a license to sell baked goods, then I might not even have pursued that license, because I could have told you from then that that might not be appropriate. I don't know that I could have gotten funding on that. So I don't think it's fair to try to say now that all of a sudden I don't have the license type that I do have, that I did get approved for, and that I've had to go through the same hoops. It's not, I maybe for you it was different, but I still had to go through every single step that a retailing license would have to go through.
No, I know you did. I know you did. I know you sat through it. So I understand. But like I'm saying, also, I think for me, in my vote, the reason that I voted for you to pierce that because you have a very close proximity to the other ones, was because you were so different and your product was different. And I do remember there'd be no overlap, and there would be no overlap with the other business. And I remember all the things that were said during that first hearing. So
And
like
I
I said,
remember too.
this is I wouldn't call it a mistake. It's probably something that, because the board is something new, that none of us anticipating having this conflict come back on us. So it's going to take a whole nother look now. I mean, and I know it's not fair to you, but sometimes life is not fair. I mean, in reality, life ain't fair. It ain't fair that I got to sit here and go through this again either, but
well, you don't have
it is
to.
what it
I mean,
is.
we could just move forward.
I understand your frustration. I understand the financial urgency for you. I get all that. I get all that. But I think as a board, we have got to find a way to rectify this. We've got to. And in the end of this, somebody's not going to be happy. It's either this board's not going to be happy, the community's not going to be happy, or you're not going to be happy. But it has to be rectified because it's a new situation. It's a unfortunate situation that we find ourselves in now, and it's totally unfortunate for you because in the long run, you're the one that's caught up in the middle of this.
Well,
And
I'll
we
be
have
really
to make
frank with
a
you.
decision. We
I'll
have
be
to
really
make.
frank with you. I can't really see a way forward where I have to essentially start the process over. I don't have the funds to do that. I can't afford to go through this process again. If these licenses are to maintain value, there has to be some integrity behind them. And so to tell me now that, oh, sorry, even though you got the exact same license type and you are licensed as a retail licenser, you can't. I just don't understand that. I don't understand how that also upholds any commitment the city has made, especially to equity applicants. I think that, yes, I had a unique idea and I really wished it worked, but the business model didn't work. And so to suggest that anytime that happens, a business would have to go through this again, all you're going to do is limit any.
But they have. You're not the first. There have been businesses that have to come back through us and have to represent because they've changed their business model. So you're not the first one that it's going to happen to. It has happened to others.
I understand, but that's when they're obtaining different licenses. This is the license that I already have.
No, people that have had a license have had to come back before us because of one thing or another. So, I mean, they've already had retail licenses and they wanted to change one faction or something of their license and they had to come back before us. So you're not the first one that's had to do it.
But I have done it.
It's just unfortunate that, again, I believe, and like I said, and I'm speaking for myself, my vote for you the very first time was because I thought you were a bakery. I thought you were doing edibles. I felt it was a very unique business. I was very pleased and supported with everything you did. But I also know for me, the reason why I voted to pierce the buffer zone was because your business was different. It was different. And so now we have to revisit that. And it may be of no fault of your own. It's this body's problem that we have to figure out.
Could I just ask a question really quickly?
Who are
I'm Cedric Wally. I'm also with I&I Rose Garden. I'm just wondering, in the past 2 weeks, I guess, why has your opinion shifted? Because when we were here 2 weeks ago, these points weren't really brought up, and we were approved for 5 days. So I'm just personally
absolutely. And the reason why it wasn't brought up because I was going to vote against it, but we came up with a compromise, and I decided to be the better guy and go with the compromise.
Okay, but all right. I'm not sure I fully understand why this is now being readdressed then, given that a decision was made. And I also know that there were other board members that did want us to have all 7 days. So I do understand that this was a compromise. I understand it's a really nuanced position to take. And I really appreciate that you guys wanted to find a way for us to move forward. I guess I'm just wondering why this wasn't brought up 2 weeks ago. So. But thank you for sharing your opinion.
And the last thing I just want to add is that I understand that there is a small faction of the community that has concerns about this, but I also maintain that there's a much larger part of the Rosendale community that does support our business. They do support the change in concept. They do support the change in hours. And I think we've proven that with the petition that we sent in. I think if we had more time than one single day, we could have got much, much more support on that. So I really just want to point that out. Yes, there are some community members that are concerned. It's a small group of people. And I just, that is why I've called for a little bit more clarity around community processing, because, I just don't know that this is really a clear and real representation of actual concerns.
Yeah, and if this is going to be reconsidered based off of 27 signatures, I don't understand how having twice the amount in just 24 hours doesn't also kind of take that into consideration. Not to mention, as much as these people are like very much trying to distance themselves from Rosendale Cannabis Company, like some of the signatures are people that have been on these BCB meetings speaking for Rosendale Cannabis Company. So it's not like this is a completely separate group of citizens and residents within Rosendale. This is clearly somewhat being led,
orchestrated by them, and the owners of Rosendale Cannabis Company are on this hearing right now.
Yes.
Commissioner Soto.
Thank you. So I think, the reality is I understand the frustration is coming through loud and clear, and it is merited, right? But I also want to, really sort of underscore the reality around public processes is that it's messy. And if you want a good result, sometimes you have to go through these really awful phases. And the reality is 27 could be way more than enough if there was something egregious happening, right? I don't care if it was 3 in reality, right? And then the opposite is also true. Yes, it is great to see double the number, but as a former, political organizer, I could get you 120 in less than an hour, right? So the math doesn't necessarily matter. I think it's the quality of what's being said. And if another person were to, bring up an objection, certainly more than one, about something, I think it's worthy of the board's responsibility, or it's incumbent upon the board to consider those factors, especially in a new industry that is, and I think this is a great reflection of that is transitioning into a more regular space in our business communities. And that is threatening to some. That's just a reality of how business works, right? And so, and I'm not even a business person. I'm just looking at that from the outside as like, well, sometimes stores go away and new stores come in. And those new stores may not be what, fit in the same, aesthetic as the other stores. That's reality. And the old store owners, at some point, they're going to get used to it and no one's going to even talk about it. And the new store owners, likewise, right? And so I just think we need to go through some of these processes. Unfortunately for you, who have had to go through this multiple times because the cannabis industry is so new, it requires so many, layers of red tape and hurdles and things and financial investment that is also, I think, should be something that is what the opposition should really be also considering is how many levels of people and decisions that have arrived to this point in order to have this business be there, I think is also incredibly important. Because guess what? I think business owner to business owner, I understand if you had that conversation and maybe, there's 2 sides to every story, and maybe they had a different take on how that went. And I understand that too, right? But at the end of the day, if someone was encroaching on your business space, I think as a responsible business owner, you would also probably think about, well, wait a second, that's going to hurt this business. And, but I want you to also be mindful of this experience, right? So that when the next business comes through, that's a crazy yo-yo company that nobody wants next door to them, that you'll be the business to say, hey, you know what? We went through this too, and crazy yo-yos are okay. I don't like them, but we're going to, try to help you along this process, right? So I think that's what we're dealing with right now. We're literally having that moment in this process. And I appreciate everybody bringing their feedback to this so that the board can actually make an informed decision. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Do any of the board members have any additional questions or comments? No? All right, we will move to a vote. So this is to reconsider the board's previous vote of allowing I&I to be open Wednesday through Sunday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Chairwoman Joyce, do you have a motion for this?
So I make a motion to reconsider the extension of hours, which should the reconsideration be granted, we would then move into a new hearing. Is that right, Jasmine?
Yes.
Okay, so make a motion for reconsideration.
Is there a second?
I'm confused. So
So
I don't understand.
So last week, was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
No, I get that. So if we vote for the reconsider, what's the new hearing?
So then Kijana and her team will be able to present the amendment to hours, and it would be a new consideration for the hours.
Okay, so she would represent to us.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I had a point of clarification question quickly, Jasmine. When we were talking about this last time, it sounds like our vote is really just limited to whether the hours change is approved, and we're kind of like not considering the change in usage as the license at all.
Correct. This is only for a change of hours. That's why I just reiterated. This is for reconsideration on the board's change of hours for 5 days a week, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. That's the reconsideration.
That's what we voted on.
Yes, so this is to reconsider that because we received the petition to.
Got it.
If it succeeds, if it succeeds, we will start over.
Yes.
And talk about whether or not her hours should be extended. And through that, we'll probably learn more about what the neighborhood is saying that they didn't understand.
Commissioner Soto. Yes.
Just a point of information, maybe for Danny Green. Am I eligible, given that I did not vote on the prior?
Yes, you are. We already checked with Corp Counsel. You are eligible to. All right. So, Chairwoman, is everyone clear on what? Okay.
So I make a motion for reconsideration.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor? I'm going to go again. Commissioner Holmes, yes. Commissioner Smith. You're muted.
I abstain.
You're abstaining? Okay. Commissioner Soto?
No.
No? Okay. All right, let me just write this right. Commissioner Kinsley?
No, I'd vote to uphold the previous one.
Okay. Commissioner Gandhi?
No.
Well, I have all the apps from them. Okay. Yeah, I signed them up. Yeah. Yeah. So I have this.
Commissioner Soto, did I get you?
Just between, I mean.
I'm a no.
That's
All right, so that is 2 for a reconsideration and 4 against, so the motion does not pass. The board's approval on May 28th stands for the amended hours of 5 days a week, Wednesday through Sunday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. All right, those were all the matters before the board today. Thank you all for attending and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.